All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call. Today's podcast is with my friend Mark Livesay and myself. We just returned from an incredible wolf hunt up north in Alberta, in northern Alberta, in Canada. It's the same hunt we did last time when for the movie Blood in the Snow. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, I highly recommend that you go and watch it on our YouTube channel, because I'm going to provide a lot of video clips from this recent trip, plus some from the past. But it's worth watching. It's about 30 minutes. It was negative 10 degrees on this hunt with the wind chill factor as cold as negative 33 degrees. It was a really gear intensive hunt because it was so cold. So we break down how we got through these cold days. We didn't have a blind. We didn't have a heater. Some of these areas we pack into a little ways, quite a ways. So we talk about the canvas cutter bedroll, and we talk about the Peaks sleeping bag. Both were incredible. We designed the Peaks sleeping bag for this exact scenario, and also a backpacking scenario. We get into that in this episode. It's worth listening to. I can't say enough about both of those pieces of gear. I love the bedroll, been using it forever, as well as the Peaks sleeping bag. So just check it out. Give it a chance. If you haven't looked into it, I think it's a good show. It's informative. You'll find it interesting. You'll want to watch it on the YouTube channel. Now, also, I'm going to do a giveaway. I'm going to give away a free sleeping bag. I'm going to give away a bedroll and a Peaks Duo headlamp. You have between today and Monday to get entered to win. And all you got to do to be entered to win is go to blackflag.com. And that's BLKFLG.com, and use the code GRITTY. Buy a Gritty Sheep t-shirt or a Dead Bulls t-shirt. Buy a tub of Revenge. You can buy a Gritty bundle. Head on over there, use the code GRITTY. You'll be entered to win the Below Zero package with the sleeping bag and the bedroll and the headlamp. But also, you'll be entered to win the Gritty Wild Arrow experience as well. The $5,000 gear package with the bow and the trip down to Salt Lake. Get it set up by Jeremiah at the Wild Arrow Archer Shop, the whole kit and caboodle. So between now and Monday, if you shop over at blackflag.com, buy a t-shirt, you'll be entered to win. You'll get 2 times the entry for both. For the Below Zero giveaway, the bonus package, the bonus giveaway, and you'll be entered to win the Gritty Wild Arrow experience. You have between now and Monday to get in on the deal. You could win it all. As always, thanks for supporting us. Stay gritty. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. Brian Call. I've got Mark Livesay with me today. We're cruising home. Been on a wolf hunt for the better part of a week or so. Almost 2 weeks.
Yep.
A week and a half. And it was negative 10 up north, way up north. And it was cold, Mark. Very cold.
It was cold, but what made it even colder was the 9 to 10 hours we were sitting on the ground.
Yeah. So we figured we'd share with you that are listening a little bit about the gear that we went through this week. And you get an opportunity when you go on trips like this to really test limitations and gear and equipment and, what works, what doesn't work. There's a lot of lessons learned. Temperatures that get below zero, negative 10, even as cold as negative 15. We were in near your home the other day, and it was like negative 30.
Yeah.
And the diesel was gelling up in my truck, and I was having trouble getting the ATM machines to work.
Yeah.
They didn't want to take any numbers or work for me. My card got stuck in the machine for a good 10 minutes. Wouldn't eject it. Everything, when it gets that cold, things just quit working.
Including your body, right?
So on this particular hunt, we came up here up north to hunt wolves. We did a film on this Blood in the Snow from last year. Came back to repeat the trip and kind of explore it a little bit further. This year, we hit some new areas, and it was much colder. It was cold before, sort of in the evenings, but this time it was very cold, but negative 10. We were, like last year, outside, no blind. We just made our own blind with, as we come up on an area where there was some bait out there for the wolf that had been put there a couple week or two in advance in random spots throughout the area. And There's little game cameras, can kind of see what's happening, what's not happening. We go in there usually, maybe by 8 or 9 o'clock. A lot of times these wolves feel more comfortable hitting these baits at night, not during the daytime. And they're very cautious, very careful. Especially these older wolves, they're smart, man. They're way smart.
Well, we've been, it's funny, over the last 3 or 4 years, we've picked up our attention towards wolves has increased. Yes. And I have a new appreciation. This hunt really solidified. I always knew how tough they were in Montana, Idaho to hunt, how smart I thought they were. I've had so many opportunities to kill a wolf, but I've yet to kill one.
Yeah.
And they're so elusive. And we come up here and they're just as freaking elusive.
Yeah.
And they're even more elusive because they know what's up. They know the gig is up, but they're hungry.
In some areas, yeah, like a wolf can kind of figure out like this pile of food in the wide open
just doesn't occur normally.
Is this like they're a little less comfortable with it? I know that when there's been a moose, like from the roadkill,
yeah,
and then it's frozen, because it's so cold up here, it gets hit, and then then the guys will pick it up and they'll go set it out. Moose kills, wolves are a lot more bold running into a moose kill.
It's more natural.
It's more natural.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to grab some domestic farm animal parts and dump them, that's a whole different thing. They're like, well, I don't know. All my favorite parts of the animal are here. What's going on?
I've been running by this spot for the last 4 years, and all of a sudden there's 2,000 pounds of pig parts.
Yeah. So this experience it's interesting. We can talk more about the wolf hunt in general on another episode. Mark didn't get a wolf, and my cousin Ben came with me. Same for him. It was a tough hunt. In fact, it was a tough hunt. We did this hunt as a giveaway.
Yeah.
And our buddies at Timber King Outfitters, we gave away this hunt. So Olin came. He brought his buddy Joe. They were the hunt winners, basically. And
cool dudes.
Awesome guys.
Hey.
And so happy for Olin. He got a stud, big male wolf. It was a little, we're wondering, it gets very easy to come up and do a hunt like this and not get anything.
Yeah.
You're kind of at the whims of nature.
Well, and it's also easy
luck
to overestimate the simplicity of this situation.
Well, this is common with baited hunts in general, because they can be one of the easiest hunts you've ever done. There's bait out there, whether it's for like bears or whether it's for wolves, and you're like, oh, I put a month into this bait site, blah, blah, blah. And you roll up, you sit down, animals come in, you shoot one. You're like, man, this is easy. Then you go on another hunt another time and you throw the bait out, and it can be one of the longest, biggest grinds and hardest achievements you've ever done.
Yeah.
Like, it's not consistent. And it can be a lot harder than people think it is. It's a chess match because as you put these things out there, you've got to have these things set up in a way that you don't get circled and that they don't scent check the location. There has to be, there's a method to the madness, just like trapping wolves. And if you do it wrong,
you're not going to get
You're wasting your time.
You're not going to get
the
one.
Wolves are hitting it, but you're never going to, not when you're there.
Yeah.
There's land features and ways that these guys that have been doing it a long time
they got it
set up. There's bait choices for certain times in certain areas. All these things,
distance from the baits.
Yeah, all these
dominant winds.
How you get into the bait, of course, and how do you get out from the bait. Like, all that stuff really matters. You learn a lot as you go out there and attempt to get a wolf. And it's the same for bear hunts. I did a baited bear hunt this last June, and I was not interested in doing it. I was like, it's I've hunted a lot of bears, killed a lot of bears. Then I did the hunt, and I can't wait to do it again sometime down the road. It turned out to be so much more fun than I thought it would be. So much cooler. You don't have to shoot a bear. That's kind of where I was at. I was like, I just want to watch them.
Yeah.
And then I just sat there watching them at like point blank range. I could have jumped on the back of one, like out of the stand I was in. So then it became a thing of watching bears interact with one another, and bigger boars, what they do to little, smaller, younger boars and females and sows and the whole kit and caboodle. it was so fun to be part of that. So I also recognize that baited hunts have a, for a lot of us spot and stock Western hunters, they kind of have a negative connotation to them. They definitely aren't as wild and as free as when you go spot and stock, but you've done quite a bit of baited bear hunting as well. It can also be really fun too, because you get to truly lure in a whole slew of critters and then kind of pick that one that's like the champion.
Or you don't. A lot of guys put up baits, like, where you put these baits, like, I don't know about the wolves, but bears, like the ridge lines that you choose, the predominant winds to get the bait set in the right spot, they use the oil scents so they track the scent around, the use of all these, the hanging the really toxic wind scent up high to attract the bear closer so then they smell the actual bait. There's so many factors that go into it that the guys that are good at it, they really have it dialed. It's not as simple as dumping a box of Cheerios on the ground and killing bears. And the wolves, I had no idea. I have never done it. And we came up here and we watched these Timber King guys. It is an absolute process they do.
Yeah.
And they're very methodical how they do it. And in some regards, we didn't have a lot of success, but these things are way more difficult than bears.
Yeah.
They're way smarter.
At the same time, the guys at Timber King are like, guys, don't let it get in your head. They're just dogs. They're just canines, And I'm like, yeah, with like a 40% more brain capacity than a normal, IQ, than the smartest dog you've ever worked with. But no, you can still you can work it, but it's not as easy as people think. And it's still the hardest part here, because we didn't have to set the bait. If you were the one that had to do all the effort for that, that's a big job, Mark. It's a big job. And some of these areas we're getting into, it's a job to get back there, and to get a bait back there and a site established, that's a pain in the butt. So a lot of that work was done for us before we get here by Timber King. Then we get up here and we get to reap the reward. But there's so many factors that'll go into whether you are able to get a wolf or not. And you never know, like, did you make a mistake? Did you cough? Like Mark coughs all the time. Did you cough at the wrong time? Did they hear you come in because they were near the site when you got there? Did you disturb the 100 crows on the site? You know what I mean? And
we learned pretty quick within the first couple of days the way we did it, because at first you were, I know we want to talk about some other things, but you were with the winners for the first few
with
days.
Olin, yeah,
and then you stuck me with your cousin Ben.
Yep.
Well, you like to make fun of me moving, but that dude moves way more than me, and he sleeps a lot more than anybody I've ever seen.
Ben has never been a statue.
Sorry, Ben.
He's never been a statue. Love him. Ben is a go-getter.
Oh, he was ready to do anything.
This is what happened with a guy like Ben. He's an exceptional elk hunter. They run, they get in it, they like disturb things. They're bold, they're loud. That's Ben. He's always been a great elk hunter. You start to put Ben in a tree stand to hunt like old, mature whitetails, I'm gonna put my money on the whitetail.
He wasn't that bad.
No, he's always been someone who kind of fidgets, moves around. He's a doer, and you have different personality types. And I found like more conservative and cautious guys sometimes have a lot harder time killing elk than the guys that are brash and, move a little more. But you don't know. You don't know if you got something shiny that's making the crows like react. They disappear. Now the wolves are like, the bait is fishy. Why would the birds react this way and be gone? Like, they're highly in tune to their environment. So they pick up on all these things. So I think sometimes you try to do everything right, but an entire day could be a waste of time.
It could be ruined before you even get to your sand.
Right. Because they hear the truck and then they go and they circle back the back trail. They smell you, which happened to us, and check the trail. And they're like, oh, I'm out of here. And then they just know that site's just kind of not working. So that's where the experts over there at Timber King make it a really fun hunt, because they have all those other sites to go to and new plans for, they have stories about wolves they've outsmarted and wolves that have outsmarted them. And it's pretty cool. But one of the biggest challenge for the hunter when you come on a trip like this, there's two of them. One is dealing with the cold and the boredom.
Yeah.
And the other one is being able to make a shot on a moving target. On a wolves don't hold still that much. They trot around. They are pretty. Sometimes they'll just go in for a minute, grab something, and get out. So you got to be with it and on it and ready, and then you got to make a shot. Not a long shot, 200-300 yards, maybe a little poke more, depending on.
Most of our shots were between 3 and 340. Now we had one day we were too close, I thought.
But a lot of the shots are 250 or less.
Oh, if they come short of the bait, yeah. The bait piles, our bait piles, the whole weekend where we had nothing under 300 at all, except for the one day that we went to that one that was like 200. So, we were talking about that once, like with a lot of big game guys, is like once you get past the 300-yard mark, you could get away with a lot more of stuff.
Yeah.
But inside that 300-yard bubble.
Inside 200 is tough.
And
tough.
We were trying to act like we were within 200 all the time.
I think if you're inside a blind within 200, right?
Yeah,
a blind that's been there a while and is set up. But I noticed we were brushed in.
Yeah.
Now when Ryan and I did it, we were laying on our stomachs and we had entire
cattails, all the stuff.
Cattails, right? But we built sticks and branches and stuff that covered us up so that even the crows couldn't really see us. And we were effective, but we didn't move. We laid on our stomach all day. Ben's not going to do that. And you had this leg problem.
Not the whole time.
But laying prone all day is tough.
Laying prone and looking forward.
Mm-hmm.
If you're laying at a slight angle, like, so you guys said, these are some lessons to learn. Like when you set up, if you get set up at a slight angle, but you can get behind the gun vertical, because that's your best shooting. When you're in line with the gun, that's your most accurate position, obviously, with your legs spread, heels down, all the normal. But if you could lay at a slight angle, it's a lot more comfortable.
So I think what would be great is you get a canvas cutter bedroll with the poles that are full body length. Because you can just slap that down in like...
Dude, setup is like minutes.
Yeah.
And you get a white sheet and sew a cover for that thing.
Well, I was thinking about a white sheet to cover it or just white canvas.
Anything. Get a bag, like sew a simple
But it does need a...
it's pretty brown. It's pretty bright.
Yeah, it's almost orange out there. But if you did put a white sheet over it and then you just lay your sticks and branches on top of it, you're completely in.
The thing there too is, I don't think the wolves could necessarily see your canvas.
No,
cutter.
It was the birds.
It was the birds flying over.
And I don't know how much.
Remember, guys, he said crows, but we're dealing with these ravens.
Yeah, I guess
they're way smarter than freaking crows.
The ravens. There's no crows up here this time of year.
Yeah, they're migratory. They said
they're down south right now, and like where your neck of the woods is.
Yeah.
And then they fly back up here. But what you got right now, this time of year, are ravens. No, they're a super intelligent bird. They have so many vocalizations. It's unbelievable. And they're communicating, dude. And you have one bird fly over us at 300 yards, and that bird makes a weird sound, and they all fly away. Like, hey, dude, I see something. Yeah. And then they all are like, hundreds of birds are flying. You're like, damn it.
And what they would do, I noticed after a few days, they caught a glimpse of you or something. They'd fly right to you and check you out.
Yep. If they saw a movement, they were like, what is that? And they'd come over, look, and then tell all their buddies, and it's over.
So I was getting ready to say that. That's what I was going to say. We got off on what I learned real quick was we weren't really managing our visual for wolves because we didn't know if the wolves could see us or not.
Mm-hmm.
We were managing the birds.
Well, and if you manage the birds, then the wolves are going to follow.
That's right.
So long as the wind is good and you're in the right spot. I think it's so fun. I actually enjoy this sort of chess match challenge. And when you do see a wolf come out on the ice, it's just like...
adrenaline is crazy.
Wow. And just to see them move in their behavior, because they're such a rare sighting for us, really? I don't know. It's a special moment. It's cool. I filmed Olin to be there. He took his first wolf, and just he was so dialed. Okay, Olin did not want, like, he wanted to be ready. There's no sleeping. Yeah. There was no
no wake me up when the wolf shows up.
Nothing that might make extra noise. I mean, that man was like, I'm here to kill, and if I have to freeze all day, but he wanted visual up on all sides, the setup for the shot dialed in, everything constantly. He's like ready to kill. And sure enough, when the moment happened, boom. So that said, let's talk a little bit about gear, and we can cover a little more about wolf hunting. But on the gear side of things, trying to stay warm, we talked about the canvas cutter. The canvas cutter kind of blocks the wind, but it's really what's nice is when it's -10, you have a comfortable pad to lay on.
It's the ground protection.
And then if you had the top on it and your gun was just poking out, you can get away with movement because it's essentially a blind.
Yeah.
It's a prone blind. It's a blind on the ground. It's like a bivy sack, almost like a little tiny one-man tent. And if you brush it in, you're pretty invisible. And you can get away with moving around inside. When you're laying in the open on top, you reach out to grab your water bottle. Any movement at all, and a bird is there, a raven, it's like, it kind of gets in the way of the hunt. It doesn't take much. I did like it. I wish I had the pole so I could really test it more fully. It's a pain to sort of throw it on my pack and walk it in there a little bit. But once you're in there, you don't have to kick out a spot much or anything like that. You just roll it out, pop it up, lay some sticks on it. If you had a white cover because there was snow everywhere,
it was deep.
You just like disappear.
But it's like what I noticed about you in that it doesn't work for you to have it and us not to have it. We need 3.
Yeah.
Right? You need to all go in with it. Because you got one guy setting out and 2 in it, that you're defeating
exactly.
the purpose.
No, I agree. Well, you really don't need 3 guys either. I mean, I was there to try to film.
Yeah, exactly.
But typically, it was just Ryan and I before, and I got my gun there, but I'm mostly filming. If I get a chance at a wolf, that's great. But I was there to film. But you're right, 3 guys. What was great about this time was I could sit back further into the trees, 10 yards, 15 yards behind you guys deeper, because I have a long lens.
Yeah.
And I can get away with a lot more back in the timber and film, So if a cameraman can capture some of that action without being like right out in the open. But the thing is, that piece of gear, I don't know that you have to have it because Ryan and I didn't have it last year.
Well, it's not going to be applicable in a lot of situations either. If you got to go a long ways.
I did not need, there's certain spots where I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love to have that canvas cutter, roll it out, throw some, make sure it's white, throw some sticks on it, and then slipping in and out of that for a few days in a row would be money. Especially if you just left the canvas cutter out there and let it just get a little covered in snow.
Yeah.
For, if you left it out there for a couple of weeks and then you just unzip it, right? Climb in. It's like a natural blind that's been there. The scent is all kind of, part of the terrain. It's been there since you set the baits, for example. Yeah. I kind of like that mobile potential blind just sitting there. But the way Lampers and I did it last year is we just had a foam pad.
Well, but you guys didn't have these temperatures and you didn't have that deep of snow either.
There was some nights where there were some hunts where some days where it was like, you're talking 10 degrees.
Yeah.
It wasn't -10, but it was still cold.
Yeah. But that's a big difference. Now,
your face didn't hurt and you didn't have to have a face mask per se, but
slit, for your eyes.
There was that day Olin killed. I swear it was -12 or 14 Celsius. I mean, Fahrenheit. And then you had on top of that a heavy wind, a 20-mile-an-hour wind.
Yeah.
And they were thinking with the cold chill, it was -30 in the wind.
Yeah, it was tough.
With the wind chill factor, dude, it was brutal. That was a brutal day.
And we're setting 10 hours, sometimes over 10 hours.
But here's the thing that made the difference. That Peak sleeping bag.
Oh, dude.
Which is why forever I wanted that design, because when we're mule deer hunting, if you look at some old films, some of those early films with Lampers and I'm in my sleeping bag, trying to survive in the tip tops, and it's -15 degrees. And I'm like, this is impossible. Like, this is torture trying to glass in the wind. And you had to be in the wind because the deer were out, like, bedded against the wind,
right,
against the hill. So you're glassing into the wind. It was brutal. And, but I lived in that sleeping bag, lived in it, keep my feet warm and all that. So this is so much better. The Peaks bag has a front zip instead of a side.
Yeah.
It has a 3-way zip, so you can open the middle if you had to take a leak or you want to reach inside
or
or
you
do
get
something.
your feet out, stand up, whatever.
Yeah, you can stand up in it. It's got the armholes so your arms can come out, and then the top. You can lay in that like a sniper, and if it just wasn't black,
I know we need a white version, or we need a cover.
If that thing could come in a different color fabric like white, dude,
we didn't know we needed it till we needed it, right?
That thing is so comfortable, but even dark like
it's
that.
It's fine. Laying flat
when
on the
you're
ground.
laying on the ground in the reeds and you get a little bit of a blind and you put some branches and stuff in front of you and you lay out. And Timber King usually has for guys. Most people aren't as hard as we are. And
well, they're also not filming, and they got to need more room to set cameras.
They like heaters inside blinds.
Yeah, our guys got a little addicted at the end.
And that adds a lot more work to set up a blind, the heater system, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, it was all I could do to keep Ben out of the first one we went to. So, Ben, we went to the first blind, and Ben was like, Ben, I think we could get in that. He goes, it's big enough for two of us. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's look at it. What had this one little hole? And I'm like, but he saw that buddy heater in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Ben, there's no propane. The propane was under the chair. I could see like 5 bottles, the little green bottle.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So I convinced him that there was no propane. And so there's no reason for us to set
that.
That
first day he died.
So we borrowed the chair out of the blind and put it in built a blind outside it. And when he went to put the chair back, I told him to go put the chair back. I didn't even think about it. And he saw the propane bottles at the end of the day.
Well, the advantage of not using the blind is you're more able to adapt to the wind, to the situation of the day. You don't have to, you can set up in an area more, in a more versatile way. Also, I like prone shots, when possible, just a more stable platform than mounted to a tripod or something like that. Especially the longer the shot gets, the more I prefer.
Yeah.
That.
But we ran it both ways. We did prone and we used our Tricer tripods, man. We're shooting those Weatherby 307s with the Anker system. Dude, being able to just clamp that anywhere along the gun was so clutch.
Yeah.
And on those tripods, it was really steady.
Yeah.
For less than 300 yards, I preferred to set up on the tripod because we could see more. Your shots were more.
Well, if it was on the run, like you're trying to pick off another wolf, like you shoot one and you can swing and get a decent leading shot off of a tripod.
Right. Well, even
when you're on the ground and you shoot, and then there's usually brush to your left or right or whatever, you can't adapt on the fly as well.
Well, you let me use your tripod after we swapped tripods.
Yeah.
And I was using, I don't know what it's called, but that quick release version.
The ball head.
Dude, all I had to do is if I needed to stand up and get some Western shots, you just click that quick release and you're
The quick release is nice, but so is the ball head because
I love
you can level that out. So if your tripod's canted, you just quickly flip the ball head and now you're level.
As soon as I get back, I'm putting the pressure on Drew to send me one of those.
Yeah, Tricer has that dialed in, and then if you use their new like NRL style tripod,
how cool would that be?
That's what you want for this hunt for
next
sure.
Year we need to test those.
We need the full on.
You could do 1,000 yards off of those tripods.
Drew needs to come next year and do this thing with us. But that was a so in the cold though, definitely the Peak sleeping bag was at -10 degrees with a heavy wind. You throw like a hot pocket inside there, ditch your boots, put them off to the side. I wore the little down booties that I get you can get them anywhere, a little backpack pair of down booties. You throw that stuff in the bag, you got the little down booties on, and you're cozied up. Arms are out the holes, you got the hood on top, and that wind was ripping, and it was just like you were in a warm oven. It was so nice.
So a couple things about that bag that was proved to be clutch was, obviously, you guys know about the armholes, but being able to sit there and have your arms out ready to go. But for me, I didn't take my boots off because I did have a leg issue, and getting my boots on and off was not easy. So that Peaks bag with that square foot box, literally, I got inside that bag all the way to the end with both boots on and had no problems. It wasn't tight at all.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that because most bags taper down. You cannot get in a regular bag with boots on and without compressing the down. That's the whole point. once you compress that down, you're losing a lot of its R factor.
Yeah.
And so to be able to get into that foot box with both boots on and have all the fluff of the down was so good.
Well, immediately, like they sell those down covers to go on the outside of your boots. It's amazing how a little bit of wind blocking and a little bit of insulation on the outside of your boot keeps your feet from freezing, because that's the one thing that freezes the most.
Yeah.
It seems that when you stop to glass, if you have like a hiking boot, I was running the Wild Rock from Crispy that has an insane amount of insulation, but really
after 8 hours, it gets saturated with cold.
Well, really what you need though for a hunt like this is you need a little external heat, so a little toe warmer or something.
So our process was
you really need a packed boot.
If you weren't walking long distances,
for backpacking where we go 10, 12 miles in, the Wild Rock's great because, or even 5 miles, whatever. If you're hiking all day in extremely cold temperatures, that Wild Rock is one of the best late season boots I've ever used because of the insulation factor. And I always bring Graxol boot dryers because when they're that warm, you're going to get them saturated with sweat. I do.
Yeah.
But I can air them out a little bit because 3 or 4 days of heavy sweating in an over-insulated boot will get them feeling wet, like for me, like they got dipped in a creek bed.
Yeah.
So
well, you're just a freak.
I do sweat a lot, but being able to dry them out with the boot dryers on a backpacking situation. But on this hunt, having like a Schnee's pack boot, that's rated for 20 below or something. That
bigger than you normally wear.
Yeah, that right there. It's not really a hiking boot as much as it's just for these super sub-zero cold temps. That's really much more ideal for this type of hunt. It would have been, and then I may not have shucked my boots as often. I may not. But if I'm going to sit in a bag all day,
you're not moving,
and I'm not moving, why keep your boots on?
Yeah, well, I did it. So the process was we'd either get there, take our boots off, get in our Peaks bags, or in my case, I would loosen my boots ridiculously loose, like pull the laces completely out. There's 2 reasons for that. One, to create air around your foot. But number 2 is if you take a hand warmer, one of these one of these ferrous iron hand warmer types, not the electric boot socks and crap.
I got hot hands.
Like a hot hand thing. You throw it in your boots and they're tight. It's not going to heat up. They've got to have oxygen. So if you allow that air circulation in your boot a little bit and create that space, the hot hands works the full 8-10 hours.
Yeah.
I noticed that when you lace them up, they tend to sucks off the oxygen and
this is something,
the performance.
This is something to bring up. And I've mentioned before on other podcasts, but you need airspace in boots, in puffy pants, in jackets. You need things to fit loosely when it's super cold, and especially your boots. So my late season boots are like 2 sizes bigger than they should be.
And I think Ben, that was a mistake. He had his normal boots.
Yes.
And they were about his normal size. And so his feet were colder than you and I the whole time. People think 2 pairs of socks is warmer than 1 pair of socks. He started out with 2. No, too much compression.
And so when you jam your foot in and the boot is tight, the coldness from the outside of the boot just transfers through each layer of item that you're wearing. If you can have an air gap, like 1 pair of socks in a loose boot is far warmer than 2 pairs of socks in a tight boot by a landslide. And when it's very cold, my boots are like yours. They're so loose. There's so much bagginess inside the boot for me. The more airspace, the better. I need the blood to flow as well. I'm 50 years old. Circulation, probably not what it was.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
And you need that unrestricted blood flow into your foot. And having a loose fit boot is night and day difference for comfort. Now, I still think that the Peak sleeping bag kind of handles it all. Because if you go out there in just your down and
you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it in down only.
But if you climb into that bag, like Ben was sleeping 8 hours a day while we were like staying vigilant. Wake me up when I'll kill a wolf.
Yeah, wake me up when the wolf shows up.
So it definitely, the sleeping bag kind of is your bomb-proof solution. But I did like the camo pattern on the Kuiu burner. It allowed you to blend in a little more, or the Fanatic. the birds had a harder time, you know. In the sleeping bag, you're a big black, whatever. But that's where I was thinking that ghillie suit I have. Get that double XL, triple XL ghillie suit. You put that bag on and just throw the ghillie suit over the top of you, and boom,
if you could just break that black up a little bit, you wouldn't have to cover it all. You just need it to be broken.
But the point for this kind of conversation is we sat out at -10 temps all day long, 9-10 hours.
Without
moving. And the systems that worked was definitely sort of some of these down layers and a sleeping bag.
Extra big, lots of layers.
This all applies to hunting late season elk or mule deer.
Yeah, everything.
All this stuff is now just reconfirming to me how versatile it is to have both your layers that you would backpack with. You're bringing your sleeping bag with you anyway. And so it's a matter of pulling out that sleeping bag, you know, throwing it in your pack for the day, getting into a spot and just having that fallback to climb inside that bag and just get comfortable for a few hours and glass and glass and glass. And then you just step out of it, throw it back in your bag. It's like having an extra set of puffies, an extra set of gear. It's even more robust. I was like, you know, again, that's the whole point of Peaks designing the bag. You're backpacking anyway. Now you have an extra piece of clothing to help you stay out longer, and it weighs almost nothing. Being able to wear that thing, have your arms out, and just like be glassing and looking for wolves the whole day in those frigid temps, it was nice.
Oh, man.
All right, folks, that's it for this episode. Tune into the next one. We talk about gloves. We talk about more about the KUIU burner setup, the Sitka Fanatic gear that we used, tips for keeping warm in these frigid, super cold temperatures, and what really worked for us, and a little bit more about wolf hunting as well. So tune into these future episodes. Like I said, if you want to be entered to win the sleeping bag, the bedroll, and a headlamp for the Below Zero giveaway, just head on over to blackflag.com, use the code GRITTY. You get 2 times the entries between now and Monday if you use the code GRITTY at the site. And not only will you be entered to win the Below Zero giveaway, but you'll also get 2 times the entries for the Gritty Wild Arrow experience. Thanks for supporting us as always. We'll catch you on the next episode. Stay gritty.
Does the old pine fair we sang